Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Good morning. For something very special this morning, the devotional today will be led by former House Representative Chip Troiano of Stannard.
Good morning. So 10 years I served here, and I have never given devotions. So my first year not here, I'm here for standing at the podium. It's a little strange, actually, but it's really a pleasure to be here and back and see lots of old friends and colleagues. And so for the last 4 years, I have risen and spoken about the Vietnam War, some about my experience there, but some of the history, because I realized that there are many members that were either too young to remember back in 1966 when I served there, and many of you hadn't been born at that time. So, I did a history lesson my first year, and I talked about the Gulf of Tonkin and the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which led us into the Vietnam War, and it empowered Lyndon Johnson to send 500,000 troops to Vietnam between 1965 and 1972. So I served as an infantry soldier. I covered that a little bit in one of my talks. So infantry soldier was difficult duty. It was, we were the ones that did the fighting, and we spent a lot of time in the field. It was really a lot of sleep deprivation, a lot of mud and dust, and things that most people who hadn't been there could imagine, really, on not showering for weeks on end and being in dust in the dry season and mud in the rainy season. But and then the last year I spoke a little bit about the aftermath of Vietnam and my long-term treatment for post-traumatic stress and my need and my ability to overcome that post-traumatic stress. I don't call it a disorder anymore. If you notice, it's post-traumatic stress. So, years of treatment on and off, and I was able to reattach to my emotions. And I get emotional when I speak about it right now, and that's okay, because when I came back from Vietnam, I was an emotional flatline. There was no sympathy, no empathy, no love. But now I can talk about it. It was difficult. It was a difficult return. So at any rate, I'm here today. Tomorrow, some of you might know, is Vietnam Veterans Day, designated by Governor Scott. And I think it's still a national recognition day. Hard to tell at this point in time. But I come here a day early because, tomorrow's Saturday. So I just wanted to, I have a poem that I found that's very powerful that I wanted to read. And most of it is, like I said, it's very powerful. So it's called The Look of War. I've seen the look of war upon my brother's face, the lines etched so deep, eyes lost in space. We meet without words and beyond a shadow of a doubt. He knows, without question, what life's about. When youth has been swallowed up in fear, and the violence and death has been so near, when you live your whole life in the span of 1 year and survive, freedom is very, very dear. I've seen the braggarts with tongues that boast. They say they've greased the most, the most. They only shine in their own eyes, and one day they'll boil in their own lies. I've seen the silent warrior who has been through hell. He sits with his back to the wall. It's easy to tell. With eyes wide open, he reveals his soul. And when you look into those eyes, you know it's in the walk, not in the talk. He speaks to heal, not to shock. He still welcomes his brothers home and in a crowded room he sits alone. You may notice a tear in his eye as he listens to you. He may bow his head when you are through. When outsiders try to run his brothers down, his mind reflects back to bloody ground. He'll defend their honor, for it's his right. Mock his war, and he'll be the first to fight. This is the character of a veteran soul. The brotherhood of war is all he knows. I've seen the look of war upon my brother's face. So I don't know if you can see this very well, just as in conclusion. This is a soldier who was apparently Vietnam era, because I can tell by the steel helmet. The helmets we wore with steel with fiberglass linings, and boy, they got heavy after a while. And now Kevlar helmets are much better on the neck and shoulders for our soldiers, and the body armor is much more able to protect their core at this point. But when you see this picture, in this photo, if you can see it, this soldier is exhibiting what was coined in World War II as the 1,000-yard stare. And that's when you come out of a battle and things quiet down, and you really are not sure where you are or what you're looking at. I still find myself just kind of zoning out in that 1,000-yard stare on occasion. And it's okay. I'm not really seeing anything. I'm just staring. And that's my story for today. Thank you.
Members, we have two House bills for introduction today. The first is House Bill 495, which is an act relating to the consideration of consolidated school district boundaries using existing regional structures, introduced by Representative Hooper of Randolph. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
H 495, an act relating to the consideration of consolidated school district boundaries using existing regional structures.
Now the bill has been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Education. And House Bill 496 is an act relating to continuing care retirement communities, introduced by Representative Lally of Shelburne and others. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
H 496, an act relating to continuing care retirement communities.
Now the bill has been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Human Services. Members, we also have four Senate bills for referral this morning. The first is Senate Bill 18, which is an act relating to licensure of freestanding birth centers, introduced by Senator Gluck and others. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
S 18, an act relating to licensure of freestanding birth centers.
Now the bill's been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Health Care. Senate Bill 122 is an act relating to economic and workforce development, introduced by the Senate Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
S 122, an act relating to economic and workforce development.
Now the bill has been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. Next is Senate Bill 123, which is an act relating to miscellaneous changes to laws related to motor vehicles, introduced by the Senate Committee on Transportation. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
S 123, an act relating to miscellaneous changes to laws related to motor vehicles.
Now the bill has been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Transportation. And finally, Senate Bill 125, an act relating to workers' compensation and collective bargaining rights, introduced by the Senate Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
S 125, an act relating to workers' compensation and collective bargaining rights.
Now the bill has been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. Are there any announcements? Member from Waterbury.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to introduce former Representative Triano. Those of us who have heard Chip's stories over the last several years know that he served in country in 1966 to 1967. And by his, as an infantryman and as a helicopter gunship runner, sorry, I got that wrong, but door runner. Chip moved here to Vermont soon after that with his family. He's lived up in Stannard for all those years. And he is probably the most courageous representative I've met. I served with him for 4 years on my committee, as he was my vice chair. And usually, most of the chagrin of leadership, he wore his heart out on his sleeve, and he didn't necessarily learn easily how to bottle up his emotions or his feelings about bills, constituents, things that are right, things that are wrong. And I think the biggest thing he taught me was it's okay to be emotional in this building when we're caring about the people that we serve and the people we serve with. So for those of you who don't know Chip, just know that he's a patriot. He served his country. He serves his state. And it's a privilege to welcome him back into the House.
Will the former member please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Member from Bennington.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is just a reminder for all of you to hopefully have you come to the event on Tuesday, April 1st, in the cafeteria that will be gathering all of us to be putting an art project together that we hope will have every one of your fingerprints on the piece that you put forth. You don't have to be artistic. You can doodle, you can paint, you can glue things on, but it's something that will come together that will represent all of us. So I understand, Madam Speaker, how difficult it sometimes is because this has been changing almost daily this past week. So I don't know how every day and every week and every month you schedule some of the things you have to, because everyone's heading in 20 directions at once. So even if I know there's travelers here in the building, even if you can only stop for a few minutes, there'll be light hors d'oeuvres and refreshments, but it's really a gathering for us to get together, to possibly get to know other folks. I've had the extreme pleasure of working with our Sergeant of Arms, Agatha Kessler, David Sheets, our curator, and the person who probably just loves this building even more than any of us do. He always has his best interest. And I've had the pleasure of working with our very own Molly Burke, who is an art teacher who's going to help as well on Tuesday, and others. And I guess it'll also you'll get to know other representatives and other members that that will have art in their lives as well, such as Representative Lalonde. If you haven't seen his beautiful pictures, go to their committee to see them. anyway, this is, please, all of you come, be a part of it. Staff and then my other members can come as well. Thank you. There'll be another reminder coming in the email.
Are there any further announcements, member from Charlotte?
Madam Speaker, the member from Vergennes promised his wife that he would not introduce her, but I did not. So the stakes are low for me, but please help me welcome the lovely, hilarious, and smart Danelle Bayrong to the People's House.
Will the guest member from Charlotte please rise and be recognized? Member from Burlington.
Madam Speaker, I would like to welcome two friends to the People's House, Christine and Luann, both from New Haven. In particular, I want to welcome my dear friend Christine Negra back home to Vermont and celebrate her role as the founding president of the auxiliary of the August Caucus of current and former members of this body who played with the Ultimate Harmony Frisbee team.
Will the guest member from Burlington please rise and be recognized? Member from Berkshire.
Thank you. Next Wednesday, April 2nd, all members will be invited to the State of the Guard address, which will be held here in the well of the House at the end of the day. Afterwards, there will be a reception in the Cedar Creek room. Invitations are in your mailboxes and inboxes, and although they say that the reception starts at 5:30, they will be ready to go as soon as the legislative briefing is done. Please join us for appetizers, beverages, and members of the National Guard to visit with. We look forward to seeing you all then.
Member from Barnard.
Madam Speaker, it is my absolute joy to welcome one of my favorite teachers from high school, Tina O'Donnell, who is seated in the balcony alongside Linda. They are integral in running the AFS exchange program, and today they have 4 students visiting the People's House. There's Aurelia from Germany, Fritzis from Latvia, David from Germany, and Nia from Bulgaria. Would you all please give me a warm welcome for them and welcoming them to the Capitol?
Will the guest member from Barnard please rise and be recognized? Member from Fairfax.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For those of you who are wondering, the New York Yankees beat the Brewers 4-2 last night. And while we all can't be New York Yankees, like the member from Heinsberg, who is first in the women's bracket in March Madness, there are some of us who are not doing as well, like the Brewers, who lost, with Rebecca Ramos with the Crescents group at last place, but our fearless leader, our speaker, in second to last place. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Are there any further announcements? Member from Chittenden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The men's games returned last night for the Sweet 16, and I won't mention how the speaker is doing in the men's tournament, but not as good as last weekend. Let's just leave it at that. The member from Waterbury, I want to congratulate her, is still in first place. However, the ground is starting to rumble, and she no longer has sole possession of first place. She is tied with the former member from Williston. And in third place continues the member from Rutland City. There's something about that section of the hall. So anyhow, thank you. More games to come. I am sure there'll be more changes to come. Thank you.
Are there any further announcements, member from Rutland City?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would just like to announce that the Red Sox score last evening was 5-2, Red Sox.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, orders of the day. Members, we have an update to the bill order on the calendar today. House Bill 493, making appropriations for the support of government, will go last. My understanding is there is an amendment in the works, so we're going to give the committee some time to hold a vote, straw poll on that. So with that, we will begin with House Bill 342, which is an act relating to protecting the personal information of certain public servants. It is my understanding that the member from Castleton will not be offering his amendment. So now the member from Coventry, Representative Marcotte, and others offer an amendment to the bill that is printed in today's calendar. Member from Coventry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, our committee would like to thank you and the body for your patience while we took time to really delve into this even more. I think it shows that your Committee on Commerce and Economic Development is really a committee that is committed to protecting Vermonters' data, committed to consumer protection, and trying to make sure that our businesses that we deal with are making sure that they are doing the right thing as well. I also want to say that we appreciate the member from Castleton in bringing the amendment to us. It sparked more conversation, and I think made the bill better by that conversation that we had. So again, we appreciate the member from Castleton coming to us as well. I won't go, although this is a strike-all amendment, there are only certain sections that we've changed or added to or deleted. So I will only go through those pieces. Some of the highlights that that we've changed in the bill. So we removed the explicit authority for a covered person to assign their claim. We've updated the notice requirement to ensure that the data broker knows what to specifically cease disclosing. We've also added Attorney General authority. I think through our vast discussions on data privacy, we've continually heard that the business community would rather have the Attorney General be the sole entity that would be there to regulate, making sure that Vermonters are protected. So we looked at what we already have in the Consumer Protection Bill. We utilized some of that authority. So we've added language that would allow the Attorney General to issue a civil penalty of up to $10,000 per violation. And we've also would give the authority to the Attorney General to adopt rules to implement the provisions of the law. We also give the data brokers 15 days upon being served. Now, this is different than just the filing of notice. They have to be served. So we took testimony that this could take several days and up to months to find the right entity that would accept that notice of serve. And so that service would be in a civil suit to stop disclosing the information after the 15 days when a data broker has not taken redacted the information. If the data broker stops, the data broker is only liable for attorney fees and court costs. However, if the data broker continues to discloses additional information after that 15 days, has a retaliation for a covered person to exercise their right, then that data broker is not eligible for that 15 days of safe harbor. Another component of the member from Castleton's amendment talked about the public display of covered persons' data. His amendment would have put that into place. We happen to agree that we should be looking at that, but I think our thought was that we probably should have a study to look at that, because we don't know all the places that state or municipal government is displaying, what the laws are pertaining to that data being displayed in public, and whether or not we should or should not continue to display some of that data. So I'll start going through the changes that we made. The changes start in today's calendar on page 1144, and we'll start on subsection B, the non-disclosure of protected information. And so in subsection A, large A, capital A, we're requiring that the notice requires that the covered person provide the covered person's full name along with the specified protected information of the covered person. We heard testimony that if you have a common name like John Smith, and if you only put your name down, it'd be pretty hard for that data broker to find John Smith and know which John Smith to redact that information. In subsection C, we also had a lot of discussion on making sure that the covered person knows that if they choose this route, that there's a disclaimer in there that tells the covered persons that this could complicate certain business transactions. And it also would not result in a covered person's protected information being totally removed from the internet. We had a lot of discussion on that. We want to make sure that the covered person isn't totally relying on this as a fix-all for everything. And I think one member of the committee summed it up very well. If your front door is unlocked and your side doors are unlocked and your back door is unlocked, and if you're able to fix the back door, wouldn't we lock that back door? And so this is a small step in this ever-evolving world of data privacy and making sure that we can do whatever we can to help the covered person. Then when we go down to subsection C, begins the Attorney General enforcement. And so I want to make sure that the data broker receives the notice from the covered person or the authorized agent of the covered person. They disclose or redisclose the covered person's protected information more than 15 days after receiving the notice of the violation. They may be assessed a civil penalty of not more than $10,000 for each violation. Subsection B is the authority to adopt rules. And subsection C authorizes the Attorney General to create a form on its webpage where a covered person or the authorized agent of the covered person is able to provide notice to the Attorney General. Not more than 15 days have passed since a covered person or authorized agent of the person submitted notice. So what this does is lets the Attorney General know that there's been a violation, because really, without that, the Attorney General wouldn't know if there's a violation or not. And providing this to the Attorney General isn't saying that the Attorney General, now you go out and take care of this. I think the thought is that if this is happening over and over and over again, it kind of gives the Attorney General notice that there's an issue going on and that they may want to take a look at that, investigate it. It also requires the Attorney General to post a form, and that at the very minimum, what should be on that form is the name of the data broker, the covered person, and the specific protected information of the covered person that is being disclosed by the data broker. Then we go on to private right of action. So a data broker, this is in subsection capital B, data broker that ceases disclosing the protected information of the covered person more than 15 days after being served by the civil suit is only liable for, again, the attorney's fees and court costs. And however, the data broker is not eligible for this safe harbor if, again, more than 15 days after receiving notice, the data broker continues to post or provides additional information on the covered person. And if they redisclose the protected information of the covered person. So the safe harbor is gone. Under subsection E on limitations, in subsection 1A, we've added the word standing authorization. So it's made with the expressed or standing authorization. So that's an authorization that they have given to, say, a financial institution when you want to buy a vehicle, so that they can pull your credit report. And so that could be a standing authorization that they have given the financial institution, or it could be an expressed. Then under section 3, the form of notice. Under 3 is new, again, providing the covered person's full name along with the specific protected information of the covered person that is being disclosed by the data broker, and request that the data broker cease disclosing the specific protected information of the covered person. Now in subsection 4 is the study and report on public agency compliance. And so this creates a study asking the Agency of Digital Services, in consultation with the Agency of Administration, the Office of Secretary of State, the Office of the Attorney General, and with other state agencies as requested by the agency, to conduct and determine the various considerations and impacts on state public agencies, if public agencies were required to conform to the disclosed policies set forth in this act. We also asked the public agencies if they were required to cease disclosing the protected information, what extent to public agencies would currently be able to accommodate, the fiscal and resource impact on public agencies, whether additional staffing or training would be needed to comply, the degree to which risk can be mitigated through state or local policy, and determining which statutes, regulations, and administrative policies require amending in order to accomplish the goal. Also, how other states have implemented similar requirements on their public agencies, including the types of penalties levied for noncompliance, the feasibility of creating a state office to manage all statewide requests, and any additional related areas of study as determined by the agency. And we're asking that the report the report would be given on or before December 1st of 2026, and that this would go to our House Committee on Government Operation and Military Affairs and our Senate counterparts. The agency will also include in its report its recommendations for legislative action and policy modification, as well as a suggested timeline for the implementation of the disclosure policies on public agencies. Madam Speaker, again, your House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development took a lot of testimony on this amendment. We heard from the Deputy Secretary of the Agency of Administration, the Director of Policy and Legislative Affairs for the Attorney General, the Director of Business Services for the Secretary of State, the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs for the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, the Director of Artificial Intelligence Division of the Agency of Digital Services, the Secretary of the Agency of Digital Services, from Legislative Counsel, from the Office of Legislative Counsel, and the Chief Superior Judge for the Vermont Judiciary. Madam Speaker, the vote of your Committee on Commerce and Economic Development was a straw vote of 11-0-0, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill be amended as offered by the member from Coventry and others? Member from Castleton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have to confess, Madam Speaker, I feel a lot like I'm at the Oscars in this moment. I had 2 speeches prepared, though I am not giving the one that I hoped to. That said, I first want to thank the Chair, the Vice Chair, and the entire Commerce Committee for their time and their consideration of my amendment. I know the hours have been long, and while I disagree with the end result, I am deeply grateful for all of their effort. When I left the State House on Friday, I was feeling both encouraged and optimistic. The Chair described our work as a breakthrough. He reinforced to the committee that the bill should be focused on compliance and not litigation. Both sides came to the table in good faith and reviewed my amendment and its proposed changes. Neither side was entirely happy, but that's often the hallmark of a great compromise. That progress was tossed aside Tuesday morning when the bill reverted largely back to its original format, with an even more aggressive application and regressive tactics. As I began tracking the Commerce Committee amendment throughout the week, and as the delays of action grew, so did my concern. Let's talk about what's really happening here. The bill before us has drifted from its core purpose. What you see before you today is no longer Daniel's Law or anything reminiscent of it, and it has transformed in ways that raise serious red flags. A key concern is the reintroduction of the private right of action, complete with liquidated damages, punitive damages, and fines. I ask this body, if my personal data is disclosed, what is the quantifiable harm? How are these damages assessed? One of the most alarming statements I've heard in my short time in the legislature came during Tuesday morning's testimony, Madam Speaker. Legislative Counsel themselves testified that these damages were necessary to include because otherwise attorneys wouldn't want to take the case if they wouldn't get a portion of their reward money from the damages. Let me repeat that. Attorneys wouldn't take the case to help public servants because there was nothing in it for them. Compensation for their time simply would not be enough. That is not public safety policy or consumer protection guardrails. That is building a litigation pipeline. So again, I ask, is this bill really about protecting covered individuals or enriching bad actors? This has been a deeply flawed process. The Commerce Committee had more testimony in the last week than in the entire run-up to the bill being voted out of committee. One thing keeps becoming more clear. Alarm bells have been ringing, not just from those of us raising concerns on the floor, but from those tasked with implementing this policy. Both the Agency of Digital Services and the Agency of Administration have raised serious objections in their testimony. Their message has been clear. This bill, in its current form, or as amended, is not ready, and neither are they. And perhaps most astonishing, as the committee contemplated their amendment to the bill this week, they did not hear from a single entity they seek to regulate, the data brokers. We did not bring those impacted parties to the table, and that should concern every member of this body, regardless of where you stand on the policy. While much has changed in the bill, Madam Speaker, And let's be clear, much has changed. My concerns have not. The proposed Commerce Amendment is such a clear departure from the bill's stated intent. There were a number of suggestions I raised that the committee disregarded. Expanding coverage of covered parties to include jurors, government lawyers, and members of the General Assembly. Treating all private businesses equally. Closing massive and dangerous loopholes by asking public agencies to play by the same rules. Focusing on compliance over litigation. Establishing a clear notice and removal process enforceable through injunctions, not lawsuits. This was a thoughtful, structured, and enforceable policy framework. It drew on successful models from other states. It balanced safety with practicality. And most importantly, it avoided the very litigation traps that this Commerce Amendment brings back in full force. Instead, here's what we're being asked to vote on. A bill that expands coverage with woefully weak verification mechanisms. A process that shifts responsibility to the Attorney General's office without funding, without staff, and without infrastructure. And still, it exempts public agencies from compliance, even though they're among the biggest sources of sensitive data. Madam Speaker, this bill is no longer about public safety. It is no longer about responsible governance. It is a rush job built around optics and litigation, not outcomes. I heard in the committee that this was a small step in the right direction. I respectfully disagree. This is a big step in the wrong direction, and not one that we should be taking. I support protecting Vermont's public servants. I always have, and I always will. But we owe them a law that actually works, without inviting out-of-state lawyers to exploit it. So, Madam Speaker, I will close with this. I urge my colleagues to vote no on the amendment, and I urge my colleagues to vote no on the bill. And when the vote is taken, I ask that it be taken by roll.
The member from Castleton requests that when the vote is taken, it be taken by roll. Is the member sustained? The member is sustained. When the vote is taken, it will be taken by roll. The question is, shall the bill be amended as offered by the member from Coventry and others? Member from Coventry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to just respond to a few things that were just said. Last Friday, we did think we had a breakthrough. We were looking at injunctive relief. We thought that that could be an area that could be used instead of a private right of action. However, when we came back on Tuesday, we were hearing that that's not the case. We asked the Superior, the head judge for the Superior Court came in to testify, told us that that's not proper use for injunctive relief, that if we were to use that we would clog the courts. That's when we changed direction. Just as in all businesses, whether they're data brokers or whether they're attorneys, there are good actors and there are bad actors. We can't control that. What we need is to make sure that we are creating a deterrent for these data brokers to comply when a covered person asks them to remove their data or redact it. We created a safe harbor. And we also have made sure that their ability to sue doesn't go into effect until January. However, the penalties in the Attorney General's office would take effect in July. I think those two factors will create a deterrent effect to the data brokers. And if it doesn't, then these are the areas that they can be used as a deterrent. I also want to highlight that your Committee on Commerce and Economic Development, when we brought this bill to the floor, was a 7-4 vote. We worked together, we compromised, and on a straw vote yesterday was 11-0. I ask you to support the committee, support the compromise, and vote yes. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill be amended as offered by the member from Coventry and others, member from Bradford?
Madam Speaker, before I address the amendments, I was made aware that content in my original floor speech regarding H342 offended some individuals. In my passion for protecting Vermonters' privacy, it may have come across that I was dismissive of the testimony of local lobbyists. In addition, I stated certain claims were untrue when I could have said they are disputed. To these concerns, I apologize. I will always passionately protect the interests of Vermonters and remain open to respectful and constructive dialogue. Local lobbyists work hard to advocate for their clients' interests, and legislators work hard to advocate for our constituents. They're doing our jobs, and we have to do ours. It is in that spirit that I continue. Let us be clear. The Harvey Amendment, while very valuable to our committee to give our committee additional time to consider additional options and also to re-go through what we had put forth, do not be fooled. As I mentioned in my original speech, this is straight out of a playbook to kill this bill. The Harvey Amendment turned our enforcement mechanism into a series of hurdles that a public servant would have to jump through. It torpedoed us into really just a storm of violations of Public Records Act, First Amendment, as well as Tort Claims Act. The committee amendment serves to correct a dangerous imbalance by protecting public servants and safety officials who dedicate their lives to safeguarding our communities. Right now, judges, law enforcement, victims advocates, and other frontline workers face real harm because their personal information is openly bought and sold online. This exploitation has tragic consequences. Vermont has always championed privacy and justice. Today, we have an obligation to protect those who protect us. Let us send a clear message. Vermont values the privacy and safety of its citizens over profit. We urge your support on the committee amendment.
The question is, shall the bill be amended as offered by the member from Coventry and others? Are you ready for the question, member from Putney?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of this bill. I rise in support of the bill and of the committee. I hope this is the first step that we take in addressing what is a growing problem in Vermont, across the country and across the world, dealing with a predatory industry that preys upon our people, most especially our children. I also want to rise in support of the process that I heard. The chair of your Commerce Committee is someone I've worked with for many years, and I can't think of anyone in this building who has more integrity or is more fair. And when I hear that his committee vote went from 7-4 to 11-0, that especially shows how the process worked and how hard they worked to bring more perspective to bear. For all those reasons, I support the bill and support the work of your committee here, and hope the rest of the body does as well.
The question is, shall the bill be amended as offered by the member from Coventry and others? Are you ready for the question? If so, member from Burlington.
Madam Speaker, with appreciation and acknowledgement for the comments made by the representative from Bradford, I will respectfully maintain that we should not apologize for remaining outspoken and vigilant when it comes to protecting Vermonters. Our responsibility with this bill is clear, and for me, unequivocal, to safeguard the private data and personal privacy of our neighbors, especially those on the front lines of public service and law enforcement. And while special interests may seek to influence our judgment or dilute that resolve, our commitment must remain firmly and solely to Vermonters advocating passionately for privacy rights and resisting external pressures is exactly the kind of representation our constituents expect and deserve from us. Madam Speaker, may I quote Joe Strummer?
You may.
Joe Strummer reminds us to let fury have the hour, that anger is power. Do you know that you can use it? Madam Speaker, we are right to be furious, and we are right to direct that fury at the outside interests who will continually seek to keep us from protecting the privacy of Vermonters. We stand upon a very precarious and slippery slope where our privacy rights are actively eroding today. This bill provides a small but necessary foothold to that erosion. I am grateful, as others have said, for all the work that our Committee on Commerce and Economic Development has done on this amendment and on the entire bill as a whole. And I am especially grateful to the member from Bradford and her unyielding commitment to this issue. This is an easy yes for me, and I hope others will join me.
The question is, shall the bill be amended as offered by the member from Coventry and others? Are you ready for the question? Member from Dover.
Madam Speaker, we had an opportunity last year to take a pretty significant step forward in protecting Vermonters' privacy. And this body worked really hard to move that with your leadership, Madam Speaker, forward. We were unsuccessful. We're seeing in horrifying and alarming detail federally why this is such an urgent issue. Madam Speaker, may I read from an industry, political industry newsletter that gives us an analysis of all lobby hires and news in Washington?
You may.
This came out yesterday. Data broker industry forms PAC. The Consumer Data Industry Association, a trade group for companies that collect and sell people's information, has formed a political action committee, according to FEC records. The group registered its PAC on Wednesday, 2 days ago, but has yet to disclose any expenditures. CDIA plans to use the newly formed PAC as another tool in our tool chest to more effectively advocate for and educate policymakers about the value of the credit reporting system, a representative for the trade organization said. The group had a prior PAC that was last active in 2012, according to public records. The CDIA is working with Republican compliance consultant Cobble Hobbs, who serves as the PAC's treasurer. Hobbs has worked with numerous GOP congressional members and PACs, and his involvement might signal which party the CDIA could favor with its PAC contributions. The industry has faced a growing number of state regulations in recent years, limiting how data can be gathered and sold. Republican lawmakers are seeking input for a federal data privacy law that would likely preempt state regulations. State lawmakers in Vermont, Illinois, and Nebraska have proposed regulations that would allow consumers to request mass data deletions through a single click, rather than asking each individual company. Madam Speaker, this is alarming to me, and we've seen this type of activity happening when Vermonters when this body has moved to protect our citizens. We've seen it with our climate change legislation, with Americans for Prosperity coming in and spending a lot of money here to move elections, to confuse the public, misinform, and I'm alarmed by this news, but I am not surprised. And so I would ask my colleagues to think very clearly here about who our duty is to. We need to protect Vermonters and their ability to protect their data. And I ask for all to support this bill.
Member from Jericho.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to bring us back to why this bill is in front of us. We put this bill out to protect the public servants who stand on the front lines to protect all Vermonters. It's a very limited group of people who will have the ability to make sure that their data is not shared publicly. We're doing this in a place where businesses whose job it is to share data, we're trying to get them right at the source, where the data is being shared. Stop sharing the data for the people who most need that protection because they are protecting us. I urge the body to support this bill.
The question is, shall the bill be amended as offered by the member from Coventry and others? Are you ready for the question? If so, will the clerk please call the roll?
Arsenault of Williston.
2 minutes. Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Will the House please come to order? I would like to remind members that we are in the middle of a roll call vote. Members and guests are prohibited from using computers, phones, or any type of an electronic device. Please refrain from the passing of notes and conversation during a roll call. And when the clerk calls your name, please answer in a loud and clear voice so the clerk can accurately record your votes. The question is, shall the bill be amended as offered by the member from Coventry and others? Will the clerk please continue to call the roll?
Austin of Colchester. Bailey of Hyde Park. Bartholomew of Heartland. Bartley of Fairfax. Rebecca of Winooski. Byrong of Virgins. Bishop of Colchester. Black of Essex. Bloomley of Burlington. Boslin of Westminster. Bosch of Clarendon. Bootenberry City. Boynan of Cambridge. Brady of Williston. Brannigan of Georgia. Brown of Richmond. Burdett of West Rutland. Burke of Brattleboro. Burkhardt of South Burlington. Burrows of West Windsor. Bird of Cabot. Campbell of St. Johnsbury. Canfield of Fairhaven. Caris Duncan of Whitingham. Casey of Montpelier. Casey Hubbardton. Chapin of East Montpelier. Charlton of Chester. Christie of Hartford. Chena of Burlington. Coffin of Cavendish. Cole of Hartford. Conlon of Cornwall. Cooper of Pownell. Corcoran of Bennington. Cordis of Bristol. Critchlow of Colchester. Damar of Venusburg. Dickinson of St. Albans Town. Dobrovich of Williamstown. Dobrovich of Williamstown. Dodge of Essex. Dolan of Essex Junction. Dolgan of St. Johnsbury. Donahue of Northfield. Duke of Burlington. Durfee of Shaftesbury. Eastus of Guilford. Emmons of Springfield. Feltus of Linden. Galfetti of Barrytown. Garifano of Essex. Goldman of Rockingham. Goodnow of Brattleboro. Ghostland of Northfield. Granning of Jericho. Greer of Bennington. Gregoire of Fairfield. Hengo of Berkshire. Harpole Glover. Harrison of Chittenden. Harvey of Castleton. Hedrick of Burlington. Higley of Lowell. Holcomb of Norwich. Hooper of Randolph. Hooper of Burlington. Houghton of Essex Junction. Howard of Rutland City. Howland of Rutland Town. Hunter of Manchester. James of Manchester. Kosenska of Burke. Keyser of Rutland City. Kimball of Woodstock. Klepner of Burlington. Kornheiser of Brattleboro. Krasnow of South Burlington. Labor of Morgan. Lally of Shelburne. Lalonde of South Burlington. Lamont of Morristown. LaRush of Franklin. Lipsky of Stowe. Logan of Burlington. Long of Newfane. Luna of St. Albans City. McGuire of Rutland City. Millay of Pittsford. Marcotte of Coventry. Maslin of Thetford. McCann of Montpelier. McCoy of Pulteney. McFawn of Barrytown. McGill of Bridport. Mickless of Milton. Mahaly of Calais. Minier of South Burlington. Morgan Ella Milton. Morgan M of Milton. Morris of Springfield. Morrissey of Bennington. Morrow of Weston. Rowicki of Putney. Nelson of Derby. Nielsen of Brandon. Niagara, Bennington. North of Ferrisburg. Noyes of Wolcott. Nugent of South Burlington. O'Brien of Tunbridge. Odie of Burlington. Oliver of Sheldon. Olson of Starksboro. Page of Newport City. Parsons of Newberry. Pezzo of Colchester. Pincinel of Dorset. Pouch of Heinsberg. Powers of Waterford. Priestley of Bradford. Pritchard of Pollitt. Quimby of Linden. Rachelson of Burlington. Sakowitz of Randolph. Shy of Middlebury. Sheldon of Middlebury. Sibilia of Dover. Southworth of Walden. Squirrel of Underhill. Steady of Milton. Stevens of Waterbury. Stone of Burlington. Supernon of Barnard. Sweeney of Shelburne. Taglavia of Corinth. Taylor of Milton. Tomlinson of Winooski. Two for St. Albans Town. Torrey of Moortown. Walker of Swanton. Waza Zachaberry City. Waters Evans of Charlotte. Wells of Brownington. White of Waitsfield. White of Bethel. Winter of Ludlow. Wood of Waterbury. Yakavoni of Morristown. Berta Cabot. Christie of Hartford. Dickinson of St. Albans Town. And two for St. Albans Town.
For purpose of explanation, member from Poultney.
Madam Speaker, I look forward to passing a data privacy bill. Unfortunately, I cannot support this amendment as it continues to contain a private right of action.
Member from Berkshire.
May I explain my vote?
You may.
Madam Speaker, although I have serious reservations about the private right of action that remains in this bill, I vote yes on the amendment to acknowledge the work done by the committee. Thank you.
Member from Jericho.
May I explain my vote?
You may.
H 342 is designed to be limited in scope, provide a safe harbor for businesses that act in good faith, and provide some protection to our public servants who stand on the front line to protect all Vermonters.
Members, please listen to the results of your vote. Those voting yes, 106. Those voting no, 38. The ayes have it, and you have amended the bill. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H 342, an act relating to protecting the personal information of certain public servants.
The question is, shall the bill pass?
Madam Speaker, point of inquiry, is another motion for roll call in order? Or will it carry through?
Yes. The question is, shall the bill pass? Member from Castleton.
Madam Speaker, I'd ask for a roll call.
The member from Castleton requests that when the vote is taken, to be taken by roll. Is the member sustained? The member is sustained. When the vote is taken, it will be taken by roll. Will the House please come to order? The question is, shall the bill pass? Member from Bradford.
Madam Speaker, every day our frontline public servants risk their safety for us. Yet right now, their personal information is openly traded online, exposing them and their families to unimaginable danger. The devastating murder of a federal judge's son makes one thing painfully clear: failing to act has deadly consequences. Today, Vermont must choose: protect those who protect us, or allow profit-driven exploitation to continue unchecked. We ask that you vote yes to stand firmly for privacy, justice, and human life.
Are you ready for the question? Member from Poultney.
May I have a brief recess, Madam Speaker?
The House will stand in recess for 2 minutes. Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Will the House please come to order? The question is, shall the bill pass? Member from Castleton.
There we go. Take 3. I respectfully withdraw my request for roll.
So the vote will be taken by voice at this time. The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Up next is House Bill 106, which is an act relating to selling real property within the FEMA mapped flood hazard area. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H 106, an act relating to selling real property within a FEMA mapped flood hazard area.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Next, we'll turn to House Bill 218, which is an act relating to fiscal year 2026 appropriations from the Opioid Abatement Special Fund. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H 218, an act relating to fiscal year 2026 appropriations from the Opioid Abatement Special Fund.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Member from Milton. The member from Milton requests that when the vote is taken, it be taken by rolls. The member sustained. The member is sustained. When the vote is taken, it will be taken by roll. The question is, shall the bill pass? Member from Waterbury. Will the House please come to order? Member from Waterbury.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would just like to remind members that H218 is a bill that was brought to us by the Opioid Abatement Special Fund Advisory Committee and the Vermont Department of Health, who all agreed on the recommendations from this. And this maintains our commitment to funding opioid prevention, treatment, and recovery services for those impacted by opioid use disorder, and is our commitment to continue to do so. So we ask for the body's support on this amendment, on this bill. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, will the clerk please call the roll?
Arsenault Williston.
2 minutes. Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Will the House please come to order? I would like to remind members that we are in the middle of a roll call vote. Members and guests are prohibited from using computers, phones, or any type of an electronic device. Please refrain from the passing of notes and conversation during a roll call. And when the clerk calls your name, please answer in a loud and clear voice so the clerk can accurately record your votes. The question is, shall the bill pass? Will the clerk please continue to call the roll?
Austin of Colchester. Bailey of Hyde Park. Bartholomew of Heartland. Bartley of Fairfax. Rebecca of Winooski. Byrong of Virgins. Bishop of Colchester. Black of Essex. Bloomley of Burlington. Boslin of Westminster. Bosch of Clarendon. Bootenberry City. Boyden of Cambridge. Brady of Williston. Brannigan of Georgia. Brown of Richmond. Burdett of West Rutland. Burke of Brattleboro. Burkhart of South Burlington. Burrows of West Windsor. Burt of Cabot. Campbell of St. Johnsbury. Canfield of Fairhaven. Kerr Duncan of Whitingham. Casey of Montpelier. Casey of Hubbardton. Chapin of East Montpelier. Charlton of Chester. Christie of Hartford. Chino of Burlington. Coffin of Cavendish. Cole of Hartford. Conlon of Cornwall. Cooper of Pownell. Corcoran of Bennington. Cordes of Bristol. Critchlow of Colchester. Tamara of Enosburg. Thanks. Dickinson of St. Albans Town. Dobrovich of Williamstown. Dodge of Essex. Dolan of Essex Junction. Dolgan of St. Johnsbury. Donahue of Northfield. Duke of Burlington. Durfee of Shaftesbury. Eastus of Guilford. Emmons of Springfield. Feltus of Linden. Gaufetti of Berrytown. Garifano of Essex. Coleman of Rockingham. Goodnow of Brattleboro. Ghostland of Northfield. Granting of Jericho. Greer of Bennington. Gregoire of Fairfield. Hengo Berkshire. Harpo of Glover. Harrison of Chittenden. Harvey of Castleton. Hedrick of Burlington. Higley of Lowell. Holcomb of Norwich. Hooper of Randolph. Hooper of Burlington. Houghton of Essex Junction. Heart of Rutland City. Holland of Rutland Town. Hunter of Manchester. James of Manchester. Kosenska of Burke. Keyser of Rutland City. Kimball of Woodstock. Kupner of Burlington. Kornheiser of Brattleboro. Krasnow of South Burlington. Labor of Morgan. Lally of Shelburne. Malone of South Burlington. Lamont of Morristown. LaRush of Franklin. Lipsky of Stoke. Logan of Burlington. Long of Newfane. Luno of St. Albans City. McGuire of Rutland City. Malay of Pittsford. Marcotte of Coventry. Maslin of Thetford. McCann of Montpelier. McCoy of Pulteney. McFawn of Berrytown. McGill of Bridport. Mickless of Milton. Mahali of Calais. Minier of South Burlington. Morganella Milton. Morgan Emma Milton. Morris of Springfield. Morrissey of Bennington. Laura of Weston. Rowicki of Putney. Nelson of Derby. Nielsen of Brandon. Niagara of Bennington. North of Ferrisburg. Noyes of Wookett. Nugent of South Burlington. O'Brien of Tunbridge. Odie of Burlington. Oliver of Sheldon. Olson of Starksboro. Page of Newport City. Parsons of Newberry. Pezzo of Colchester. Pinson of Dorset. Pouch of Heinsberg. Powers of Waterford. Priestley of Bradford. Pritchard Pollitt. Quimby of Linden. Rachelson of Burlington. Sekowitz of Randolph. Shy of Middlebury. Sheldon of Middlebury. Sibilia of Dover. Southworth of Walden. Squirrel of Underhill. Steady of Milton. Stevens of Waterbury. Stone of Burlington. Supernon of Barnard. Sweeney of Shelburne. Taglavia of Corinth. Taylor of Milton. I'm sorry. Thank you. Gotcha. Tomlinson of Winooski. Two for St. Albans Town. Torrey of Moretown. Walker of Swanton. Waz of Zachaberry City. Waters Evans of Charlotte. Wells of Brownington. White of Waitsfield. White of Bethel. Winter of Ludlow. Wood of Waterbury. Yakavoni of Morristown. Bird of Cabot. Christie of Hartford. Cooper of Pownell. Dickinson of St. Albans Town. Ghostland of Northfield. I'm sorry, Ghostland of Northfield. Thank you. Stone of Burlington. And two for St. Albans Town.
For purpose of explanation, member from Cavendish.
Madam Speaker, I cannot with good conscience support this bill. Although I agree with much of what is in this bill, I believe that the $1.1 million for its safe injection site overdose prevention center could be better used by funding beds for true drug addiction recovery and transitional housing. 1.1 million more toward recovery would serve those with addiction better than providing people a place to continue to use illegal drugs. We should consider that there is a difference between just being alive and really living a full life.
Member from Essex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I vote yes for harm reduction in honor of Gaetano and all the many family and friends who miss you every single day.
Member from Bennington.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Though I have my reservations with a particular item in H218, I do want to thank the Committee on Human Services for working to organize the Opioid Abatement Special Fund. Too many Vermonters and Americans have been devastated by the opioid crisis, and this fund will support many important provisions.
Member from Poultney.
Madam Speaker, while disappointed the safe injection site funding remains in this bill, I vote yes for all of the prevention programs that will be funded in this bill with the opioid settlement fund money.
Member from Bridport.
Madam Speaker, I voted yes because we must act with compassion and urgency to save our neighbors from preventable deaths, to meet people where they are with dignity and care. I voted yes with the unwavering support of this investment in public health, in our communities, and in the inherent worth of every Vermonter.
Member from Milton.
Madam Speaker, while I don't agree with everything in this bill, the majority of programs this does fund make it worth my yes.
Member from Milton.
Madam Speaker, my no vote is due to Section 1, Subdivision A5 regarding the City of Burlington's Overdose Prevention Center. I support Governor Scott's veto of this bill last session. I believe the millions of dollars being appropriated for the safe injection site would be better used on recovery sites and/or centers to help people with addiction. My Ashley might be with us today if she had more recovery and sites available to her. I do agree with other pieces of the bill.
Member from Milton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Although I would have rather seen the $1.1 million of opioid settlement money earmarked in this bill for the Opioid Prevention Center go to other harm reduction methods and beds for treatment, I voted yes because this bill will fund other much-needed initiatives to treat those in need.
Member from Berry City.
Madam Speaker, I voted yes. However, I need to express my deep concern with safe injection sites. My yes vote is not a yes to safe injection sites, and I want to make that very clear. Thank you.
Members, please listen to the results of member from Burlington.
Madam Speaker, may I explain my vote?
You may.
Madam Speaker, I vote yes in memory of my sister.
Members, please listen to the results of your vote. Those voting yes, 119. Those voting no, 24. The ayes have it, and you have passed the bill. Up next is House Bill 491, which is an act relating to setting the homestead property tax yields and the non-homestead property tax rate. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H 491, an act relating to setting the homestead property tax yields and the non-homestead property tax rate.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Members, we will now turn to House Bill 494, which is an act relating to capital construction and state bonding. The bill was introduced by the Committee on Corrections and Institutions. The member from Springfield, Representative Emmons, will speak for the committee. And carrying an appropriation, the bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which recommends that the bill ought to pass. The member from Franklin, Representative LaRouche, will speak for that committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
H 494, an act relating to capital construction and state bonding.
Member from Springfield.
Madam Speaker, today we're presenting you with another money bill, probably the last one at this point in time until the end of this session. The capital bill deals with our bonded dollars for construction projects, for state-owned buildings, for projects back in our community, for wastewater, drinking water projects, for taking care of our historic sites that we own as a state, for our courthouses, for our correctional facilities, and also for the Vermont Housing Conservation Board. We also deal with addressing our TMDL requirements within the Lake Champlain and Lake Memphremagog area with our clean water section of the bill. Before I continue, I would like to thank our committee, my committee. I know it was a steep learning curve for many folks. We had 6 brand new members to the committee. And I'm sure at times in January and February, it was like, why are we listening to this? I don't get this. How is this all going to come together? And it did come together. And it came together pretty quickly. And folks went for the ride. And I want to thank each and every one of my members because they all did some terrific work. So, Madam Speaker, let me focus everyone in terms of how we're going to proceed. You all have the spreadsheet on your desk, and the report of our committee is really based on the spreadsheet. We do have the bill, H 494, which you can find the bill on our committee webpage or the bill search finder, or if you have the paper copy. There is language in the back of the bill that's not reflected on our spreadsheet, and we will be reporting on that. Let me lay out how the spreadsheet is designed. You will see a block of gray, and you will see columns B through F. That is the governor's capital budget that the governor recommended. In the maroon block with columns G through K are the changes that we did and we are proposing in our capital budget before you today. The capital budget is designed a little different than our appropriations budget. Our capital budget is a 2-year budget. So we are doing a budgeting for FY26 and FY27. You will see that in our column, in the maroon block, on column G and column I. Column J gives the total of what we are going to be bonding. Column H pertains to the amount of general fund dollars that we receive for some of our capital projects. So we have both bonded dollars as well as general fund dollars. Column K is the total of all of that. If you go to the back page, the very back page, you will see the amount of money that we are working with. We are working with a total budget for 2 years of $123,296,000. That is broken up into having $111.9 million approximately of bonded dollars for 2 years and general fund dollars of approximately $11.3 million just for FY26. That's the box we were working in. We are limited in terms of how much we can bond over a 2-year time frame. And that is the box that we worked in. So, Madam Speaker, at this time, I would like to begin our report. We will begin on section 2 and walk through the spreadsheet. And towards the end of our report, we will be dealing with some language towards the back of our committee bill. So at this time, Madam Speaker, I'd like to yield to the member from St. Albans.
The member from Springfield yields to the member from St. Albans City.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, Section 2 of the capital budget is funding for buildings and general services. And I'm going to speak to some notable pieces within the section. Line 1 changes the administration's recommendation of $8 million in general fund dollars for major maintenance to $7,138,401 in bonded dollars and $861,599 in general fund dollars. These are smaller projects, and we were concerned that if they were funded in general fund dollars that we would lose the tracking ability. Line 4 shows a change to the 3-acre parcel. There's about $3 million here from previous capital budgets. It's very clear through testimony that not all the money is going to go out due to permitting. Subsequently, we reduced the 2027 bonded dollars by $400,000 for a total of $2.6 million instead of $3 million. Line 13 shows a $58,279 add for the Middlesex print and postal power supply upgrade to ensure this project is completed in order to protect the control boards and hard drives at this facility. Section 3 of the bill speaks to the Department of Corrections funding. In line 20, we started installation of HVAC systems within our correctional facilities a few years ago. $4.7 million has been included in prior capital bills for this purpose. There's another $5 million being added here. The current focus is for Springfield facility and Newport facility. Lines 23 and 24 address door control replacements at Marble Valley facility and Northeast facility respectively. In St. Albans, we haven't gotten as far as we had hoped with renovations to the booking area. There was a large variance in bids for this work. Line 27 addresses roof work also at the St. Albans facility. We have cut the roof money back a bit while allowing BGS to move funds between the booking and roof projects in St. Albans. I yield to the member from Ludlow.
The member from St. Albans City yields to the member from Ludlow.
Madam Speaker, I'll be reporting on sections 4 through 8, lines 31 through 68. Starting with section 4, titled Commerce and Community Development. In general, these are state-owned historic sites. The committee supported the request amounts for maintenance of these sites. Line 32 on the spreadsheet. The committee agreed with the governor's recommendation to continue funding for the protection of these state-owned and underwater preserved sites in Lake Champlain. Lines 33 through 35 identify 3 potential projects the governor proposed to invest in increasing housing. The committee recommended the funding for these projects be moved to the big bill to be paid with general fund dollars. Line 34, the committee had added $25,000 to cover the cost of casting markers previously ordered for the identification of roadside historic locations. Line 37 was also added by the committee to the governor's recommend to maintain the Bennington Battle Monument, which is ailing from moisture retention, causing crumbling of the limestone. To keep our famous tourist sites safe, fencing has been installed. The committee is reallocating $419,000 from last year's capital bill as the state now needs to move forward with planning and design of a system to dry out the monument. The $525,000, which is includes the $419 from last year's capital bill to complete the design process for the next phase of this project. Section 5, lines 42 through 50, titled Building Community Grants. The committee recommended $300,000 per year for each of the 7 grant programs, which include a list of small grants that go directly back to our community for small infrastructure projects. Some examples of this could be a town-owned recreational facility that needs new bleachers, or a parent-child center that needs a new roof, or agricultural field days needing electrical upgrade to their fairground. These programs are intended to be used for infrastructural upgrades. The grants require a 1-for-1 match and are capped at $25,000 per project. Section 6, lines 55 through 57 pertain to the Vermont Veterans Home for the change-out and replacement of 80 air handlers. After testimony, the revised project cost is reduced to $710,000. Line 56 also deals with the Vets House. These dollars go to the expansion of their laundry facilities, which support 150 residents. It will replace washers and dryer units, which are, quote, at the end of serviceable life, end quote. Based on revisions in size and number of units required, a reduction to $340,000 was recommended by the committee. In addition, there's language that allows the dollars to be moved between lines 55 and 56 in that costs may change. Line 57, the committee reallocated $1.5 million from last year's capital bill that was directed to the renovation of B and C wings. In testimony, it was indicated that the A wing is now priority. The $1.5 million will now go to begin design and possible construction of A wing. And finally, sections 7 and 8. We've kept their major maintenance dollars at $1.5 million per each institution. Section 8 supports Vermont state colleges, and the committee put dollars in for the Johnson campus to upgrade their 50-year-old central heating plant. The committee also added language requiring Vermont State College to work with Efficiency Vermont for support and possible cost savings. Madam Chair, this concludes my report, and I yield to the member from Bennington, Representative Greer. Thank you.
The member from Ludlow yields to the member from Bennington.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will be reporting on sections 9 and 10 of the Capitol bill. For members who would like to follow along, you can use the provided spreadsheet and begin on line 73 on page 2. And I should note that there are no highlighted sections in columns G through K in either of those sections, which indicates the committee's concurrence with the governor's recommended capital budget. Starting in Section 9, Agency of Natural Resources. The Department of Environmental Conservation, which I will refer to as DEC, throughout the remainder of my time, does not include bonded dollars for fiscal year 2026 for the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, which I'll just refer to as the Drinking Water Fund, because DEC received less congressional earmarks and more match money for the Drinking Water Fund last year. Therefore, the Agency of Natural Resources did not request bonded dollars for the first part of the biennial budget because there is no need for a state match in our fiscal year 2026 budget, but they did seek appropriations of $590,000 for fiscal year 2027. Next, we have in line 74, DEC dam safety and hydrology projects. We kept the governor's recommendations to appropriate $500,000 in fiscal year 26 and in fiscal year 27. Now we'll move on to Forest, Parks, and Recreations, which I'll just refer to as FPR for the remainder of my report. FPR has requested in line 75, $3.5 million for fiscal year 2026 in total bonded dollars for park infrastructure and rehabilitation and improvement, which encompasses the 3-acre rule compliance. This will be $2.5 million in fiscal year 27 for the same purposes. FPR also requested $700,000 for both fiscal year 26 and 27 to cover public lands access infrastructure. This includes FPR sites and properties where visitors can only access parking on the sides of streets, and FPR seeks to increase accessibility, capacity, and the safety of particular sites where they have identified improvements being necessary. In line 77, the Department of Fish and Wildlife has requested approximately $1.1 million in fiscal year 26 and slightly more than $1 million in fiscal year 27 for major maintenance and infrastructure projects. In total, the capital appropriation amount under Section 9 to the Agency of Natural Resources is $11.1 million for fiscal year 26 through 27. Section 10 is clean water. This is the most fascinating part of the Capitol bill. Now, I won't get too dirty in the details on this one, Madam Speaker, but I will give as much context as possible regarding the total allocation in this section. First, I want to note that fiscal year 27 only has a temporary placeholder figure of $10 million, which seeks to project what the Clean Water Board recommends in its annual clean water budget, which provides funding to help municipalities, farmers, and other Vermonters implement projects that will restore, enhance, and protect Vermont's water quality, including addressing priority sources of nutrient and sediment pollution. And in particular, because of federal mandates along with state-level coordination to comply with clean water regulations, Section 10 capital appropriations are used to address our total daily maximum load, or TDML, as I will refer hereafter, in the Lake Champlain and Lake Memphis. I'm not from Vermont. This is where it comes out, Memphremagog. I'm sorry. Water basins. So I'm only going to focus on fiscal year 26 and the breakdown of those allocations. Line 83, we've allocated $3 million for water quality grants under the Agency of Agriculture. These grants enable farmers to make improvements that come from agricultural discharge and byproducts and provide financial assistance for farms to improve water quality as a preventative measure within the lake basins aforementioned. On line 85, there was no money allocated to the Clean Water State Revolving Fund in the Clean Water Board's capital budget recommendations. This is because prior year capital appropriations can satisfy state matching requirements for fiscal year 26 that helps fund wastewater and stormwater infrastructure projects that are mandated under federal and state Clean Water Acts and regulations. On line 86, the municipal pollution control grants will receive $4 million in bonded capacity for fiscal year 26. Since this is a continuing line item, your House Corrections and Institutions Committee reviewed prior capital bill allocations for Section 10. And of the total $8 million capital appropriations, now I will apologize, this is not on your sheet, but in fiscal year 24 and 25, it's our understanding that nearly all the money has been expended and that there may be $70,000 that will be returned if one of the projects does not require the additional money that comes under budget. Madam Speaker, the total number of applications for the Clean Water Fund and Drinking Water Fund were 125 and 83 applicants respectively for our fiscal year 26. This represents all of our municipalities across Vermont seeking loans to improve their water infrastructure. On line 88, we have the Forestry Access Road water quality improvements. The $200,000 allocated to this line item will fund best management practices for roads located on public lands. This will make sure any sediments and runoff can best protect our water quality in the years ahead. And line 90 addresses the agricultural water quality projects, and we've appropriated $800,000 to support the ongoing work with the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, as well as assisting farmers to address water quality issues that are centered around our TDML thresholds and safety targets. Line 92, the land conservation and water quality projects have been allocated $2 million. This is part of the water quality that goes beyond working directly with farmers. These are the auxiliary water projects that support landowners and allow the state to leverage additional federal funds. So, Madam Speaker, to put a long story short, water ain't cheap. And Madam Speaker, I will yield to the member from Burlington to present sections 11 to 16 of the bill.
The member from Bennington yields to the member from Burlington.
Madam Speaker, as just indicated, I will be taking us on a guided journey through sections 11 through 16. As has already been indicated, the highlighted portions in columns G through K will indicate where our committee has amended the governor's recommended capital budget. Section 11, our military, we are in complete alignment with the governor's recommendation for this section for major maintenance projects, ADA compliance, and continued planning for our transition to consolidated state armories. I will note that of the 8 projects funded within these allocations, 7 of them include substantial federal matching that is secure at a 1-to-1 ratio or better. Section 12, Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. We are building upon previous allocations for 2 significant renovation projects. The first is the Eastern States Exposition, known as the Big E. This is a state-owned building in West Springfield, Massachusetts that hosts approximately 25 Vermont vendors annually. I know we have a few members included in those numbers. They showcase our state to around 1.3 million visitors at one of the nation's largest fairs every year. This funding addresses deferred maintenance at that building and some critical infrastructure rehabilitation that we'll need to do in anticipation of the 100-year anniversary coming up. The Vermont Agricultural and Environmental Laboratory, VALE, at VTSU Randolph. This facility supports essential testing for the agency. Funding will modernize an outdated heating plant at VTSU to ensure efficiency and continuous year-round operation. We have also included some stipulations directing Buildings and General Services, BGS, to negotiate propane boiler maintenance that we're including in this project and update the existing MOU with Vermont State University for permitting the transfer of unexpected funds from earlier appropriations to this project as well. The language for that, for those agreements can be found on page 15 of our capital bill. Section 13, Department of Public Safety, the governor's recommend allocation for the Rutland Field Station has been divided. He put it all into 2027. We've divided it between FY26 and FY27. This will allow initial work to begin promptly should the project move forward as expected. Section 14, Judiciary. Of the courthouse projects listed, the Woodstock and the White River Junction facilities are actually state-owned buildings, and we support the governor's recommendation for allocating $8 million of non-bonded funds to complete the White River Junction courthouse renovations. The remaining courthouses, while county-owned, regularly host state functions, and the committee is dedicated to kind of figuring out how we're going to answer that question about that shared use space. That precedes my time here, but it's certainly on our agenda to continue talking about. Based on judiciary testimony, we have added allocations of $190,000 to that end, that shared use in bonded funds to install a backup power system at the Lamoille County Courthouse. We have also removed the allocation for the Newport Courthouse replacement since approximately $3 million from previously allocated funds remain unspent and that the project has not yet secured a building site. We are open to revisiting this allocation during the Budget Adjustment Act next year if necessary, if the process moves forward. But right now, it's in the process of trying to find some land. Section 15, we agree with the governor's recommended allocations for the dry hydrant program. This is a program that provides matching grants to municipalities for installing dry hydrants near water bodies, enabling rapid and unobstructed refilling of fire equipment. So these are those hydrants you see next to ponds and lakes that both voluntary and professional fire departments can use. Municipalities contribute a 25% local match, which can also include in-kind services. And then Section 16, we also support the governor's recommendation for the Vermont Historical Society's renovations and repairs at the Spalding Building in Barre. This building houses important state collections and exhibitions. Recent heavy precipitation has caused water infiltration that has damaged the building structure, as well as some of the collections. These funds will repair and remediate the most urgent water infiltration system issues, preserving the building's integrity, and then safeguarding those valuable contents that we all enjoy. That concludes my report. I will yield to the member from South Burlington, Representative Minier.
The member from Burlington yields to the member from South Burlington.
Madam Speaker, I will be reporting on sections 17 through 19 of the bill. And as we proceed, as the member from Springfield mentioned earlier, I'll be turning from the spreadsheet to the language of the bill to explain a couple of details. Section 17, this section indicates places where allocated capital dollars were not needed and were added back to the bottom line for reallocation to other projects. White lines indicate money that was identified in the governor's recommended budget, and yellow lines show places where the committee found additional money on top of that. There are three reasons that money was available for reallocation. Either a project came in under budget, a project was canceled, or a project was taking longer than expected to get underway, and the decision was made that the money could be used on something else now without negatively impacting the project. And here's where we need to turn to the text of the bill. On pages 22 to 23, which is still section 17, there are several instances of notwithstanding language. This is because it recently came to light that the committee is instructed that it may reclaim funds greater than 2 years old, but that it shall reclaim funds over 5 years old. The understanding previously had been may for anything greater than 2 years. Therefore, in cases where justification could be provided for taking more than 5 years to expend the money, notwithstanding language was necessary to justify not reclaiming it. Section 18, we go back to the spreadsheet. This authorizes the treasurer to issue bonds per the recommendation of the Capital Debt Affordability Advisory Committee. And as you can see on line 163, the recommendation was for $100 million over 2 years, split into 50 for each fiscal year. And my final section, section 19, here we're back to the language of the bill once more on pages 24, 25, and 26. This section allocates general fund dollars to capital bill projects with appropriation of these dollars having occurred in the big bill. That concludes my portion, and I now yield to the member from Montpelier.
The member from South Burlington yields to the member from Montpelier.
Madam Speaker, it's opening baseball week, and I'm batting cleanup here, starting with section 20, and I'll take you through till the end. So section 20, just a bit of housekeeping here. We clarify that the capital bill will be submitted on the third Tuesday of every annual session, which coincides with the governor's budget address, as opposed to the date of December 15th, which was a bit confusing there. Section 21, also a bit of housekeeping. This enhances the capital budgeting process by requiring detailed reporting of prior appropriations, expenditures, and delays. And that's going to help our committee and the legislature keep track of the life of projects and plan ahead for any future budgeting needs. We found it really helpful to look at this as a sort of 10-year plan as opposed to just year at a time here. Section 22, that gets into the cash fund encumbrance extension. This was requested by the administration. And for the Capital and Essential Investment Fund, it extends the encumbrance window from 2 to 3 years to prevent lapses in project funding. Change really just reflects the reality that getting projects out the door often takes longer than expected. It also clarifies that the now 3-year clock for unspent capital funds starts at the end of the legislative session, not when the bill is signed. Section 23, this is a transfer of the Randall Meadowland in Waterbury from the state to the municipality. And what it does is it authorizes the transfer of a parcel behind Randall Street in Waterbury for flood mitigation work. This area has faced repeated flooding and silt buildup. And you might ask, why are we transferring it rather than selling it? Really three reasons. First, the property doesn't have much value. It's being leased to a farmer until 2027 at the moment. Second, Waterbury would be taking a hit once this land is transferred by not receiving the pilot funds. It usually does receive. And third, there's the expression, the life you save may be your own. Randall Meadow is right behind the Waterbury State Office Complex. Those of us who remember Irene and the tens of millions of dollars spent when the complex was flooded, we never want to see that happen again. So the mitigation work that'll be performed by the municipality will really help ensure that we don't see the level of flooding we have in the past there. Section 24 continues last year's creation of a special legislative committee to oversee the Capitol Complex flood recovery as FEMA reimbursement decisions evolve. It adds a new requirement to BGS just to work with the City of Montpelier and the Montpelier Flood Commission as we're looking at maybe altering the city in different ways with flood recovery plans. Some of these decisions may need to be made off session there, so we want to make sure everybody's rowing in the right direction. Probably a bad analogy for flooding, but Section 25, this repeals a study that was in place before on reusing the Chittenden Women's Prison site. A couple factors there, just given the timeline of that project right now, any study would be a bit premature. And basically what we're hearing is it's unlikely that that would be repurposed just given the condition of the facility. Section 26, this just allows the Veterans Home to offset state appropriations with federal funds received for capital projects. And then any savings would be recycled into future capital projects, of which there are many coming up for the Vets Home. Section 27, and this is just a reallocation of unspent capital funds from last biennium that were being used for State House cafeteria furnishings. It would allow some of those funds now to cover the cost of the new security X-ray machines that we see when the governor gives an address, the mobile devices there. Lastly, the effective date is upon passage. The committee vote was 11-0-0, and I just want to echo the comments of the chair. We're really grateful for all the committees we worked with through this process and with administration officials, so we'd be grateful for the body's support. Thanks very much.
And now speaking for the Committee on Appropriations, member from Franklin.
Madam Speaker, your House Appropriations Committee has reviewed H 494, found it favorable on a straw poll vote of 11-0-0. We applaud the House Corrections and Institutions Committee for the work they've done and recommend that the bill should pass. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
So the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Will the House please stand in recess for a brief moment? Can I see the Chair of Appropriations? Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? We will now turn to the final bill on our action calendar today, which is House Bill 493, which is an act relating to making appropriations for the support of government. Prior to third reading, the member from Northfield, Representative Donahue, offers an amendment to the bill that the first assistant clerk emailed to members at 10:29 today. This amendment is also posted on the House Overview webpage, and paper copies are available at the main table. Member from Northfield.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment addresses a fairly discrete area of the appropriations bill before us, and it has to do with the Vermont Saves program and some changes to that program being proposed by the Treasurer's Office. This was for a little bit of background, this was a bill that was passed, a program that was established through a bill that came through your Government Operations Committee in 2023. Very solid program. I think it had broad support because it encourages and gives access to Vermonters who don't have an employer-sponsored retirement savings plan to be able to open one. It is a voluntary program, but we created it as an, quote, opt-out. So people are automatically enrolled, and then if they don't want to be a part of it, they don't want to give $120 a month into the account out of their payroll, then they need to take steps to make that change. So of course, to be voluntary, that means that the opt-out needs to be very well informed to the participants. The language that was provided to the Appropriations Committee asked for a change from 8% to 10% in the auto inflation factor that the treasurer can do annually to the amount, the standard amount that's deducted. That isn't actually going to start taking place for a year or so. And of course, we don't know what the notice will actually look like to make sure that people are aware of how much more might be automatically deducted from their paychecks and whether they want to opt out. But, Madam Speaker, there's a really significant background issue, and it is purely a circumstance of timing that brings it before us now, because this is an issue that I was looking into on behalf of a constituent, and in fact, met with the Treasurer's Office just the day before yesterday, and then discovered that there was a whole a change, maybe not huge, but a change to the program in the appropriations bill, although it doesn't actually affect any appropriations of the state, and actually is a policy issue that the Government Operations Committee was never notified about or approached by the Treasurer's Office. It simply was the Treasurer asked Appropriations to, put this language in. Madam Speaker, in this day and age of the kinds of emails we all receive, I'd like folks to just think for a moment about what your reaction might be if you received an email that came from a private entity, did not come from a state agency email, and said in large print, "You're in. Your Vermont Saves account is ready to be set up." Then goes on to say it's time to start saving, your employer's added you, the program puts you in control of your financial future by offering you a safe, secure, and simple way to save. So, Madam Speaker, I see, two problems with this approach. First of all, if I get offers about financial benefits that some unknown company is sending me an email about, I've heard enough warnings. I know enough not to click on that click and to just delete it. But if I did read a little bit more and said, oh, this is actually legitimate and it's telling me about something, oh, it's an offer. So if I don't want to be involved, I don't take up the offer. Delete the email. In fact, if I had read much further down, I would have discovered that I was already enrolled and that I had to take action to opt out. I'm very concerned about the nature of these communications. And so when I saw the Vermont Saves change language in the appropriations bill, I looked and saw this increase to the auto escalation amount and thought, we don't even know what kind of notice people will get about what could be the treasurer's office in its sample email says $120 a month out of your paycheck. For some people, that's a whole lot of money. And we certainly want to encourage it, but we want to encourage it in a way that's viable for the individuals affected. This clearly is a subject that belongs up to the review and the involvement and the testimony and the judgment of our Government Operations Committee. And so the amendment is quite simple. If you look at the language, you won't actually even see the change because it's removing the proposed change in the appropriations bill from saying the maximum automatic escalator is raised from 8% to 10%. And this simply restores the status quo and gives the time and ability for this to be reviewed, the issue to be reviewed in more depth before making changes to a program that's been started. So, Madam Speaker, I would ask for the body's support.
Speaking for the committee, member from Bennington.
Madam Speaker, the Appropriations Committee thanks the member for bringing this amendment. We had a chance to take some testimony from the Treasurer's Office, and the committee agrees that this is worth further review by the Appropriate Policy Committee. And the Appropriations Committee supports this amendment by a straw vote of 10-1-0.
The question is, shall the bill be amended as offered by the member from Northfield? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have amended the bill. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H 493, an act relating to making appropriations for the support of the government.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Members, that completes the orders of the day. Are there any announcements? Member from Stowe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, I've observed recently that in this body, there's a lot of excitement about an indoor sport that's going on, March Madness. Additionally, a lot of interest in the opening day of an outdoor sport, baseball, Major League Baseball. But I just wanted to highlight, yesterday marked the end of the Alpine World Cup Championships that were held in the United States out in Sun Valley. And I want to acknowledge two Vermont-trained and educated athletes that performed well. First, former UVM ski racer Paula Molson finished sixth in the final World Cup slalom yesterday. And Burke Mountains, Michaela Schifrin won the event, her 101st World Cup victory, a almost untouchable world record. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member from Derby.
Thank you, Speaker. Madam Speaker. The representatives from the Northeast Kingdom extend an invitation to our member from Bennington to receive enunciation classes on Lake Memphremagog, and also extend to him a visit to Shattuck's Hill, to the Overlook, to view the northern expanse up into our friends and neighbors to the north, Canada. Thank you.
Member from Barrie City.
Madam Speaker, I do need to apologize to you. During the explanation of the votes, I did not ask to explain my vote. So retroactively, may I explain my vote?
Yeah, you may.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I do
member.
apologize.
Thank you, member. Member from Barrytown.
Thank you. And since it seems to be a day of sports notations, I would like to give a shout out to Boston University on behalf of myself and my district mate and seat mate, Topper McFawn. The BU hockey team routed Ohio State in a final score of 8-3 BU in the quarterfinal for the national championships. So there we go.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none. Member from Poultney, can you please offer us a motion to adjourn until Tuesday, April 1st at 10 a.m.?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion this body stand in adjournment until Tuesday, April 1, 2025 at 10 a.m.
You have heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and this body stands in adjournment until Tuesday at 10